Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the other side of rock bottom. My name is Kathy Simmons, and if you're new here, I'm a woman in long term recovery, a certified recovery coach, author, speaker, and the founder of the other side of rock bottom. Here on this channel, we talk about recovery, trauma, mental health, addiction, faith, healing, personal growth, and learning how to rebuild our lives one day at a time. So before we jump in, I do need a quick favor though. If this video helps you in any way, please take a second to like, subscribe, comment, and share. I know every YouTuber says that, but there's a reason. This is how we beat the algorithm. Every like, every comment, every share tells YouTube that this content is valuable and should be shown to more people. And if this message reaches even one person who feels hopeless, stuck, broken, ashamed, or alone, then it's worth it. So thank you for helping us spread the hope. All right, y'all. Today we're going to start a new series called Rewire Your Mind. And I'm really excited about this because understanding what we're going to talk about literally changed my life. Today we're going to talk about why you think the way you think, why you react the way you react, why trauma affects us the way it does, why addiction is so powerful, and why change feels uncomfortable. Why some people seem stuck in the same pattern for years. And most importantly, how healing is possible. I need you to hear something before we go any further. You're not broken. Your brain learned survival. And there's a difference. For years, I thought something was wrong with me. Why did I catastrophize everything? Why did I always expect the worst? Why did I panic, react emotionally, self-destruct, and eventually numb my feelings? Why did I keep repeating unhealthy patterns even when I desperately wanted my life to be different? Can anybody relate? Because I know I'm not the only one here. Then I started learning about trauma, addiction, neuroscience, and, hold on for it, something called neuroplasticity. Now, I know that sounds like a big word that your doctor uses right before you get the $5,000 bill, but hang tight with me. We're going to break it down. And when I learned all this, things started making sense, not as excuses for my behavior, but as explanations. And explanations can create understanding. Understanding creates compassion, and compassion creates room for healing. So let's start with this big old word, neuroplasticity. Now, don't let it scare you. Let's break it down. Neuro simply means brain. Plasticity comes from the word plastic. Now, when I hear of plastic, I don't think about water bottles. I think about something that can be molded, shaped, bent, or transformed. Kind of like clay in a potter's hands. Scientists have discovered that our brains work the same way. For years, they believed the brain stopped changing once we became adults. Thankfully, they were wrong. Researchers now know that the brain continues changing throughout our entire lives. Think about that. Right now, your brain is changing. Every thought, every experience, every habit, every conversation, every emotion, every prayer, every choice, and every action leaves an imprint on your brain. Researchers estimate that the average person has thousands of thoughts every day, and many of those thoughts are repetitive. The brain strengthens what it repeatedly experiences. Whatever gets practiced gets strengthened. This is true for fear. It's true for addiction, anxiety, shame, self-hatred. But there's good news. It's also true for healing. It's true for gratitude, peace, confidence, faith, recovery, and most importantly, hope. In other words, if trauma can shape the brain, healing can shape the brain too. If addiction can shape the brain, recovery can shape the brain too. If fear can shape the brain, faith can shape the brain too. And friends, that's some of the best news I've ever heard because it means we're not stuck. Let's talk about trauma for a minute. Because trauma changes the brain. It's not weakness, y'all. It's not a character flaw. This is science. Research has shown that trauma can affect the amygdala, which is the brain's alarm system. It can affect the hippocampus, which helps process memories. It can affect the prefrontal cortex, which helps with decision making, impulse control, and emotional regulation. When you've lived through trauma, your brain starts scanning for danger constantly. It's trying to protect you. The problem is sometimes it gets a little over enthusiastic. Some of us, especially me, have brains that respond to a burnt piece of toast like we're preparing for the apocalypse. You spill your coffee and your brain immediately says, well, that's it. Everything's ruined. Probably should move to another state. I don't know about y'all, but yeah, my brain will go there. Trauma often creates survival responses: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Some people get angry. Some people run away. Some shut down. And some become people pleasers. These are not personality defects. They're survival adaptations. And addiction rewires the brain too, y'all. Addiction affects dopamine pathways, which that's the brain's reward system. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, addiction changes brain circuits involved in reward, stress, memory, learning, motivation, and self-control. Again, not an excuse, but an explanation. And understanding the difference matters. Because shame says, hey, something's wrong with me. But healing says, something happened to me, and now I can learn a different way. For me, this became very personal. In 1998, my entire world changed. My mother died unexpectedly on July 3rd. Just a little over 2 months later, I found my dad by suicide on September 11th. Those losses shattered me, and my brain learned some powerful lessons. The world is unsafe. People leave. Pain is coming. Disaster is around every corner. Stay alert. Stay prepared. And expect the worst. Here's the thing, y'all. My brain wasn't trying to hurt me. It was trying to protect me. Then addiction entered the picture. And those pathways, buddy, did they become even stronger. For years, I lived in survival mode. I didn't know it at the time, but I thought, hey, it's just who I am. But y'all, it wasn't who I was. It was what my brain had learned. And if something can be learned, guess what? It can be unlearned. One of my favorite neuroscience sayings is, neurons that fired together, wired together. English translation, what you repeatedly do becomes stronger. Repeat fear, guess what's going to grow? Fear. Repeat gratitude, guess what's going to grow? Gratitude. Repeat panic, panic grows. Repeat peace, peace grows. See where I'm going with this? Repeat shame, shame grows. But repeat truth, and truth grows. That's why affirmations matter so much. And any of y'all that have been around me any amount of time know I'm big on affirmations. And before some of you roll your eyes and imagine somebody standing in front of a mirror saying, I am a magical unicorn of abundance. That's not what I'm talking about. Although, hey, if that works for you, sparkle on, right? But what I'm talking about is training your brain. Most people have been using affirmations their entire lives. They just didn't realize they were negative affirmations, such as, I'm stupid. Sound familiar? I'll never change. I'm too damaged. Nobody loves me. I always fail. I'm just not good enough. Here's the thing, y'all. Those are affirmations. They're just destructive ones. And the brain believes repetition. The more often you repeat something, the more familiar it becomes. So healing requires replacing those lies with the truth. Not fantasy, not false positivity. Truth. Instead of saying, I'm worthless, you replace it with Psalm 139:14, which says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Instead of saying, I can't do this, replace it with Philippians 4:13, which says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Instead of I'll never change, replace it with Romans 12:2. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Y'all, it ain't positive thinking, it's rewiring. And I absolutely love Romans 12:2 because long before scientists understood neuroplasticity, Scripture was already teaching it. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Notice it doesn't say renew your circumstances, renew your bank account, renew other people, or renew your past. It says renew your mind. Even Scripture recognizes the incredible power of mental transformation. And I can tell you from personal experience, it works. Today, I'm not the woman I used to be. Not because life got easier. It didn't. Not because I stopped having problems, because I still do. But because I learned different ways to respond. Here's a perfect example. Recently, my daughter Rose was involved in a car accident, we'll say. The old Kathy would have gone full catastrophe mode. I would have emotionally planned 3 funerals, adopted 6 orphan puppies, written a disaster movie, and convinced myself civilization was ending before the tow truck even showed up. But y'all, that's not what happened. I stayed calm. I trusted God. I handled the situation, and I responded instead of reacting. That is neuroplasticity in action. That is recovery in action. That is healing in action. But that's also proof that the brain can change. And listen, y'all, if this crazy brain can change, yours can too. So here's your challenge before part 2, because this is going to be a 3-part series. For the next 24 hours, I want you to just simply observe your inner voice. Notice how you speak to yourself. Notice how often fear speaks. Notice how often shame speaks. Notice how often you expect the worst. But here's the thing, y'all, don't judge yourself. Just notice. Because awareness is where rewiring and healing begin. And I want to leave you with these affirmations, okay? Practice them, please. I'll put them in the description below so you can have them. First one, my brain can change. Next, healing is possible. I am not broken. I do not have to believe every thought I think. Small, repeated actions create massive change. My past shaped me, but it doesn't define me. God is renewing my mind. Progress over perfection. Those are some powerful affirmations. But guys, I want you to remember this, please. You're not broken. Your brain adapted to what it lived through. But adaptation is not your destination. Healing is. So guys, thanks for spending this time with me. If this video encouraged you, taught you something, or helped you feel less alone, please like, subscribe, and comment and share, because that's how we continue reaching people who need help. And if you'd like to connect with us live, The Other Side of Rock Bottom hosts 3 free recovery meetings every single day. You can find the details in the description below. There is life on the other side of rock bottom. I believe in you, and I love you guys. And I'll see you in part 2.